Okay, well, welcome back to the summit. I want to welcome Christina Canters all the way from Australia.
Woo! Thank you for having me, Mario. I'm excited.
I'm so excited to have you. I'm kind of a fan because I came across your podcast last year, and I remember listening to the first episode. I'm like, who is this woman? She's amazing. She's so confident. She was, you had a lot of great information for me. So I really love your podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Mario. I appreciate that.
And Christina's podcast is Standout, Get Noticed. And I'll put a link on the show notes or the speaker page. And it's her website is the ccmethod.com.
Just one C.
Oh, one C.
One C. Although it could be the CC method. But I thought I'd make it easy for people and just do one C. So it's the C method. Yeah.
Okay, my bad. The C method. And I'll put the link in the speaker page. So yeah, I'm happy you're here. So like we talked about before, just give your 3 tips on how to help a realtor based on your experience, like we're having a cup of coffee. And then I have a bonus question at the end for very easy. So I'll let you kind of roll with it.
Sure. Okay. So Mario asked me to come up with 3 tips for helping realtors like yourself build up confidence in yourself and your business. And it was actually really hard to pick 3 because I have so many. I was like, I just want to share all of them. But obviously I couldn't. We don't have much time today. So the first tip I'm going to share with you today, and I include this in my confidence course actually that Mario actually joined up to, is to know what the value is that you provide to others. Because it's hard to actually be confident in what you're doing if you don't believe that it's actually good. And oftentimes we discount what our skills are and what we actually do that's really good. And we need other people to tell us that. Because a lot of the time we're doing things that are really good, but we don't actually realize it. So what I like to tell people to do is to ask other people who you trust, people who you know well, ask them, what do I do well? So what's one thing that I do well? And you can do this by asking them face-to-face, or you can send out an email to a bunch of people. You could actually preface it by saying, I know this sounds a little bit weird, but I was just wondering, right? Or you could say something like, oh, so I was listening to this, I was at this great summit for realtors, and I saw this awesome chick speaking, and she had this suggestion to ask people, so you don't have to ask it straight up. So the first thing you're going to ask them is, what do I do well? And then the second question, because there's a follow-up, it's all well and good to know what they think you do well, but the best part, the most valuable part, is to find out, why is this important to you? Or why is this of value to you, right? And the reason why that's important is that different people might tell you that you're good at the same thing, right? So for example, you might get a few people telling you, like for me, for example, people say, oh, you're so creative, Christina. I love your creativity, right? So I might have a few people tell me that. And if I know that, I'm like, great, so what? Like, why is that? What does that even matter? What am I supposed to do with that? So then asking why is that important, you get back actually different responses. So for example, one person might say, it's valuable to me because it inspires me to be creative myself, right? I might get another person saying, it's entertaining for me and it gives me a break, like watching your videos gives me a break from my boring day, right? Or someone else might say, oh, I'm just making things up here. You've inspired me to do things differently or something, right? So the reason why, the reason you're adding value to these people is going to be different. Does that make sense, Mario?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the people that you're asking, are you saying people in your circle? Because I think the other benefit is I can go back and ask my previous customers, like past clients. Would that be helpful?
Absolutely. Yeah. So asking past clients, asking your close circle, people who you trust and know well, right? Because if they don't know you very well, then it's not going to really help that much. And And what this exercise does is it helps you discover how other people view you and what they love about you and what makes you unique, right? Because you want to stand out from all the other realtors. You want to have that competitive advantage. And a lot of the time it's to do with you and your special sauce that you bring. It may not necessarily mean that you're better than someone else, but you're different, or it's to do with your personality that makes you unique. And it's important to not discount that and really play to those strengths that you bring. For example, I know I'm not the best pitching coach, right? Or the best public speaker out there. But like, there's people who've been doing it for decades, but I don't let that bother me, because I think, well, I'm me, and if someone wants to work with me, it's because I am creative and quirky and fun, or whatever it is. They like my particular method. So I really focus on that and exploiting that. But oftentimes, because it's like a fish doesn't know it's in water, right? We're surrounded by who we are and the way we see the world, and we often don't see how other people see us. So asking people is a really good way to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a good self-assessment. Maybe you're viewing how people view you, and it could kind of give you an ego boost, but it could also, maybe you're just not aware of where your strengths are.
Absolutely. And then you can use that to then sell yourself. If you get enough people telling you, oh, you're really enthusiastic, or I love that you're really humble, or I love you have integrity, right? Or you're really authentic, which is different to a lot of other realtors that I've met, right? You need to like hone in on that and go, okay, wow, that's it. If you get a few people saying that, then, focus on that. And then in terms of the confidence thing, that then gives you that boost and go, wow, I didn't realize I did that for people. I didn't realize I inspired people or encouraged them or was able to help them with X, Y, Z. And I had I had someone else in my confidence course do this exercise, and he actually sent out a survey monkey survey with just those two questions. What do I do well? Why is this valuable to you? And he compiled it all in a spreadsheet and he sent it to me. And he was like, this is incredible. I had no idea that people thought these things about me. And it's made me feel so good about myself. So it's definitely a really, really good first step.
Yeah, that's good. And you've seen those kind of word diagrams. You could probably do that too, where people give you feedback and based on all the different words they give you. And for realtors, we want to hear integrity, professional, honest, all those kind of things. So I think that's a good tip. And I think what happens with us sometimes, we're afraid to go back to our past customers. But I think for this exercise, it's a great reason to be in touch with your past customers. And a lot of times they want to give you feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. But a lot of people won't give you feedback unless you ask. It's very rare for someone to just say, hey, do you mind if I give you some feedback on what sort of realtor you are? Like, no one does that. No one does that. But if you say, hey, I'm trying to, I want to improve the way I operate and build my business and provide a better service for my clients, I'd love to learn, I'd love to understand, why did you choose me, and why, or if it's a repeat client, why do you continue to use me? And, you might be surprised by what you find out.
Well, that's a good tip.
All right. Tip 2. Are we ready for tip 2?
We're ready. Okay.
This one I learned from Tony Robbins. So I'm not claiming this is my own, but it's helped me a lot. So I'm sharing it with you here. And the tip is to change your state. And this applies to when you're going about your day, going to an important meeting, going to present to a client, even if you're doing a presentation on video or whatever. Changing your state requires there's 3 parts to this. There's your physiological state, so your physical body position. There's your focus, so what you're actually focusing on. And there's your language, which is the words that you're saying to yourself and also to the people that you're working with. Now, when I know, you've probably seen, Meyer, have you seen that TED Talk where Her name is Amy Cuddy, and she talks about how our physical state actually affects our mind. Have you seen that TED Talk?
I mean, I've seen a lot of TED Talks. I might have seen that one.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of familiar.
She talks about power posing, and she talks about, they did these experiments where people who, it's a bit harder, like you can't see my whole body, but they did experiments on people who would sit in a power pose, like they'd pose like Superman like this before a job interview, or they'd hold a pose like this, like a really powerful pose like Beyonce or Hulk or something. And their cortisol levels, so their stress hormone levels actually dropped, and they felt more powerful and strong and confident. And then on the other hand, people who sat like in these really submissive positions, like crossed arms, or like, you know, those positions where you're like really scared, those people's cortisol levels actually went up. So they became more stressed and they felt less powerful. They felt weaker. And if you've been to a Tony Robbins seminar, I'm sure many of you guys watching have been, he gets you to change your physical state all the time. You're up and you're jumping and you're like dancing around, and that just gets you fired up, right? So I do this before every presentation or important meeting that I'm going to. I will power pose like this in front of the mirror. I'll do like some boxing moves in front of the mirror. I'll jump up and down. You know, I'll just get fired up just to get that energy up. So when you go in, you're like, you know, your mind thinks you're strong, you're powerful. Even if you're driving somewhere, you can sit there with your arm up on the windowsill like this and be like, yeah, like make yourself big, right? Make yourself big, confident, think like, you know, super cocky CEO, like, Kanye West, right? Do that, and then when you walk in, you know, keep your shoulders back, keep your chest sort of up, like not down like this. You want to keep it up, and then walk in there, and you'll just exude this confidence. And here's the best part: even if you're not feeling confident here, your body will actually trick your mind into thinking that you are. Your body affects your mind just as much as your mind can affect your body. So that's physiological state. The second part is focus, right? So it's very important for your confidence to actually focus on things that you can control, right? So if you're going into a presentation and you're thinking, oh no, what if this happens, and what if that happens, and what if they're thinking this, or if they don't like me, right? Those are things that you can't control. So there's no point focusing on that. Instead, focus on what you can do, right? You can change your physical state. You can prepare like a ninja. You can practice over and over again, right? So those are all things that you can control. And when you go into something going, all right, I've done everything I can that's within my control to make sure this gets the best result for me, then that's going to really boost your confidence. There's also other things, and things like focusing on what you have rather than on focusing on what you don't have. All of those things make a real difference to your confidence. Did you want to add anything, Mario?
No, I mean, I like the physiological part, because I know like playing sports when we're younger, you play football or baseball. I mean, when you do strike a pose or when you do change your body, it does affect your mind. But I think we don't remember that when we're going into a meeting or we're giving a presentation, and then we have a tendency, like you said, to kind of, you know, get nervous. Our body gets closed up, and then that affects how we feel.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep. So just remember to think big, think strong. And the thing is, the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. So the more you practice it, eventually you'll just sit with your shoulders back anyway, and you'll just walk around like really confident. That's I realized that I'm actually almost too good at it, and I stand with my like legs apart, right, like in this stronger stance, and I realized it's not very ladylike. So I have to find a bit of a happy medium there. Anyway, the third part to the changing your state is to change the language that you use, right? And this is one of the lessons in my confidence course, actually. It's delete the word just from your vocabulary. So many people I talk to go, oh, I've just started, or oh, I'm just with different professions, oh, I'm just a hairdresser, or oh, I'm just a student, or I'm just a grad, right? Or I'm just a new, people always using, I'm just this, I'm just that. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're a student. You're a grad. You're a new business owner, right? It's, or like, I'm just a junior, I'm a junior. That sort of language is destroying your own self-confidence, well, not destroying straight away, but it's eroding your confidence bit by bit simply through the language that you're using, right? If you've just started, sorry, there I go again. If you've started a new business recently, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Be proud of the fact that you've started a new business. So instead of talking it down and going, oh, it's just a new business, or I'm just starting, or oh, it's just, go, no, I've started. I've been doing it I started it this year, right? And we're so used to saying, oh yeah, it's just a new, oh, my podcast it's like just getting this many downloads. No, be proud of what you have. Yeah. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. I mean, when we change careers and we go into real estate, a lot of us are kind of like, well, people ask you, well, what are you doing now? Oh, well, I just went into real estate,
Yeah, exactly. I just went into real estate. So that's great. You went into real estate. You made a career change. It's like me saying, yeah, I just quit my job and traveled the world and came back and started my business and won a competition. It's ridiculous. What you need to give yourself more credit for what you've actually accomplished. And again, this comes back to listening to what other people have said to you, right? I tend to not discount, but for me, looking back and going, oh yeah, I quit my job. I used to be an architect. I quit architecture and I started my own thing because this is what I'm really passionate about. To me, that's just a normal thing. And people go, that's ballsy, man. Or that's really inspiring. And I'm going, no big deal. But I need to, really own that and go, yeah, it is a big deal. And I did that and it took a lot of guts. And this is where I'm at right now. Right? So it's exactly the same for you as a realtor if you've changed careers. Be proud of it.
Or if we did something, sometimes we have a closing, we help a customer, it was a big deal. Your friends ask you, oh, how did your week go? Oh, well, I just had this closing today, and I think, like you said, you got to be excited, say, hey, I had this closing, I helped this customer, it was fantastic. And I know I do that because I make a big deal out of it every time I help somebody because I'm excited because, it's a lot of work to get to that point.
Absolutely. Celebrate. Mm. And it relates also to your inner dialogue. Can you hear those birds?
Yeah, I heard something.
We've got some lovely birds here in Melbourne. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so it relates also to your inner dialogue. So pay attention to what you're actually telling yourself, even if it's not out loud. What are you putting yourself down or using language that isn't helping you, isn't serving you? Yeah. All right. Shall we move on to tip 3?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
This relates to what do you do when things go wrong? What do you do when you've gone into a meeting and it just hasn't gone the way that you wanted to do, or you've given a presentation, it just hasn't gone the way that you've wanted to? Now, my tip is to, in this instance, do a self-assessment afterwards, right? So what happened, okay? You can't change that. Don't, dwell on it and go, oh my gosh, like I was so terrible, right? That was so terrible. Let's just forget it and move on. A more constructive way to look at it is to do a self-assessment and go, okay, what did I do well? And write this down. Write it down. I do this after every presentation. What did I do well? What went well? And then write down, and then you can also write down why. Why did that work? What worked and why? And then write down, okay, what didn't work? What could I have done better? And why was it not as successful this time, right? And then write down what you learned. Okay, what did I learn from this situation, from the experience, and what am I going to improve on for next time? Because remember, it's always going to be a learning experience, and nothing's ever a mistake or a failure unless you don't learn something from it, right? I mean, it happened. I remember when I first started getting calls from people saying, "Hey, can you coach me on my public speaking?" And people would ask me questions, and they'd say, "Oh, and how much do you charge?" And I'd sort of freak out, not know what to say, and then I'd kind of stuff up the call, and they'd go, "Oh yeah, okay, all right, yeah, I'll keep in touch." And then that was it. And afterwards, I'd go, damn it, like why didn't I, because I'd always remember, I should have said this, I should have said that, because I knew what I needed to say. Because I was on the spot and I wasn't prepared for it, I wasn't as effective in the way that I communicated with them. So in that situation, I would say to myself, okay, what do I need to remember to do next time? You know, what can I learn from this? Instead of going, oh, I failed at that or I sucked at that, right? I in turn turned it into a positive, into something constructive. Go, what can I learn? What can I do better? And again, this goes back to focusing. Like, focus on what you can control, right?
So how do you let that emotion go? So like, you know, you're talking to that potential client and it doesn't go the way you want it to, and you're like, oh man, I lost that deal. You know, how long are you beating yourself up? Because a lot of times we are our hardest, you know, critics. We're hardest on ourselves than other people. You know, how do you let that go?
I would say by focusing on what you would improve on, right? And then focus on being grateful. Well, I'm grateful to have that experience. I'm grateful that it wasn't a bigger deal that I missed out on, right? There's no point really beating yourself up about anything. And I tend to not, well, I don't think I do. I try not to just wallow in things that didn't work out, because there's really no point, right? And the more you practice this, the more you practice gratitude, the more you practice learning, looking at learning, looking at what you learned from that situation, the more you practice that, the more natural and it becomes, and it just becomes a normal state that you're in all the time, right? So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. I mean,
or not.
I think we all need different coping mechanisms to be able to move on, because sometimes we get too caught up and we kind of wallow in our despair and, you know, become a drama king or a drama queen. And in real estate, the reason I'm asking you, because we are notorious for that as realtors, because if something goes wrong, we're walking the hall, oh, Christina, you won't believe this. And, you know, I met with this buyer and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, so we're all making a big deal out of it when, like you said, just learn from it, focus, and move forward.
And just think, well, they're probably going to be a terrible person to work with anyway. They were going to be really hard work. It wasn't meant to be. I have a friend who lives by the mantra, it will come. And he's all about patience, persistence, and momentum. And he believes that you really need to be patient and really work consistently to that thing that you want. So if you're still in the early stages of your business and you don't think it's happening for you just yet, you've got to just stick with it and not beat yourself up about having not reached a certain level, or comparing yourself to other people and going, oh, but they got to that point at this stage, so I should be there. It's a very easy trap to fall into. And I find myself doing that as well. And then I have to take a step back and go, Christina, you've only been in business for, you know, a year. But most people don't even make it past that point. Most people don't even make it to that point, right? And people who are really successful, it takes at least a few years to actually get there. And it's important to remind yourself of that. And I like to listening to good audio tracks, right? And watching videos of people who inspire you, and listening to motivating things, especially in the morning, to get you fired up, to get your mind in the right place is really important. maybe you might have a list of affirmations that you like to read out. So, or you can write a declaration of independence for yourself, like, right, I am Mario and I am a kick-ass realtor and my podcast gets downloaded by 1 million people every month. And people love me because I am excitable and friendly and enthusiastic and passionate, right? Nothing can stop me. I am, I'm incredible and, write whatever it is you want. My life is full of joy and passion and gratitude. And then read that out to yourself every day. And that will just help to get you fired up for the day. And when you prime yourself at the start of your day, feeling those good feelings of gratitude and joy and abundance and prosperity, when something goes wrong later in the day, it's hard to rattle you, right? So or I should say, it's easier for you to stay positive and not be too cruel to yourself, right? When you've started the day on a real positive note.
Well, that's good. That's really good. I like that. And as you would say, you're a rock star.
You're a rock star. Exactly. You pronounced it right too. Rock star.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for the Australian accent. I love it.
Apparently that's the only reason why he wanted me on here. It's not because of, my content. It's just because of my accent. But that's one thing that people find valuable in me. That's what Americans find valuable. So I should capitalize on that.
Yeah, build it up. That's your strength.
Yep.
So those are 3 good tips. I think those are awesome. And you and I were emailing, and I did have like a question I wanted to ask you, because one of the things I've been struck by you, following you on your podcast and seeing some of your videos on YouTube, is that you have a lot of confidence and you really present yourself well. But I think the confidence to me is, most impressive. So when you first started doing videos, obviously, you probably weren't as confident in the beginning. So how did you get over that? And the reason I ask is because, I tell all my audience and people that, the summit and my podcast, that video is a great way to build relationships and connect with people. So do you have any advice for people that are kind of holding back and not saying, I don't look good enough, or, I'm not that, I'm not going to speak that well, I'm going to look stupid, and I don't want to see myself on video. Do you have any advice for those kind of people?
Yeah. You may not believe this, Mario, but I used to hate seeing myself on video. I hated it. I would think, am I that much of a dork in real life? Surely not. But it turns out I am, so I just learned to live with that. But anyway, I actually started, when I first started creating content for my audience, I didn't launch straight into video. I actually started a blog first, and I was writing, and even that in itself is scary, putting yourself out there, right? Writing and sharing articles with people. And I did that I was doing that for 6 months, and then I had the idea to start my podcast. So then I started my first podcast, and then hearing my own voice was scary enough, and I'm sure you experienced that too, Mario, when you started your podcast. But then eventually you get used to it, and then that sort of built up my confidence to then do videos. So it was a gradual thing, okay? I didn't launch straight into videos. So so there's a couple ways you can do it. You can gradually build up, like I did, so go from blogging to podcasting to videos, so slowly getting more and more sort of involved with the medium that you're using. Or you can just dive right in and just do it and just go, I have to start somewhere, just start and do it, right? And I think going back to those things about what do people see valuable in you, why do people like you, and just using that to sort of to fuel yourself, and using that when you are presenting on camera. And look, a lot of it just comes down to not caring what other people think, really. You've got to just go, this is who I am. If you don't like me, great, because I don't want to work with you either. right? If someone is that turned off by your face on camera, they're like, oh, I do not like the way she speaks. I do not like her haircut. Why would you want to work with that person anyway if they're going to be that repulsed by you? Better to find out now than down the track when you've got contracts in place and you're really involved, right? And so, so I say just do it, and you've got to start somewhere. And you need to understand that your first few videos are going to be pretty terrible. Just accept that. No one ever starts something and is fantastic at the beginning, right? You think of any sport that you've tried, or any activity or skill that you've learnt recently, right? When you learn how to play basketball, do you think you can do a perfect layup like after an hour? Absolutely not. It doesn't work that way. Just like with anything, it requires consistency, it requires practice, it requires dedication to it, and just doing it and learning from your mistakes, learning learning what you're good at, learning what you're not so good at, and practicing that. And video is exactly the same. I look back on some of my old videos, like first videos that I made for people, and I swear I'm not smiling. They're too long. The editing's not sharp enough, and I look a little bit scared, right? And I look back and I go, oh, I would have done that differently. But I wouldn't have gotten to where I am now without having done those first few videos, right? So you've got to start somewhere, and just accepting the fact that someone may not like you, which is cool. Accepting the fact that you're not going to be, Ron Burgundy in the first instance. That was an Anchorman reference, by the way. I hope people got that.
In the U.S., we got that.
Or what's a Cronkite?
Yeah, no, we all know Ron Burgundy.
Okay, great. Well, like Ryan Seacrest, you're not going to be that like suave, real professional presenter or speaker on camera, like in the very first instance, or even in the first 5 or 10 instances, right? I actually did a TV presenting course, and that was like really difficult for me. After all the videos that I've been doing, I still find it really hard to present to camera and remember what I'm going to say and all of that. So it's an ongoing learning process.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, that's very helpful. I think it's good for you to kind of go through that. And you make a good point that people are so repulsed by you, but the law of attraction is you're going to attract people that want to be with you and want to work with you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's just like if you're starting a podcast, or, people, some podcasts I turn on and I go, I hate your voice. So I turn it off, right? And that's fine. There's plenty of other people that do like their voice. And I've told people about podcasts that I like, and they say, oh, I hate that guy's voice. I can't listen to it. But I'm like, well, I like it, right? So you're going to, by putting yourself out there and being authentic and doing things the way that you do them, you're going to attract the best people who to work with you anyway. So it's a win-win. And you grow too.
No, absolutely. Okay, so here's my last bonus question. So this one I didn't tell you about. So here we are at the summit. It's the middle of January 2016. I want you to look back last year, 2015, and just share with us an accomplishment, a goal that you achieved. It could be personal, it could be business, something you're excited about that you want to share with us, because I think it's important for us, just like you said earlier, to be proud of your strengths.
Absolutely. That's a very easy one to answer, actually. Earlier this year, it was in October. Oh, sorry. So we're in January now. So last year in October, I won a major prize in a business plan competition that was run by RMIT University, which is one of the biggest universities here in Australia. And it was open to all new businesses of people who were studying or staff members of RMIT. And I'd done a short business course with them. So I entered my business, the C method, being public speaking coach and trainer and speaker. And there were 3 major prizes and I won the 3rd one, which I was so excited about because it's a very prestigious competition here in Australia, and to be recognised by RMIT for what I do and what I offer was a huge honour, and I was incredibly humbled to have won that. There was a lot of work involved, and I had to pitch my business to a panel in the final round, which I'd never actually done before. And that was very, very scary, but also really a great learning experience and really rewarding. So that's one big goal that I hit in 2015, which I'm really, really proud of.
Yeah, I think you had an email go out about that, and you talked about it. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's good. Okay, anything else you want to add before we wrap up? I'm really, happy that you're here. It's great to have somebody from, Australia, and, I love your enthusiasm. I love how you present, and, we could all learn from you. So thank you.
Thanks, Mario. Well, if you've done my confidence course, so if anyone watching this also wants, more tips on how they can be more confident when speaking about themselves, and when giving your elevator pitch, if you want to being able to explain what you do to people so you can get more clients and make more or have more opportunities for you and your business, yeah, you can jump on the course too, and it's free. So
yeah, and I'll put the link to that on your speaker page, as well as your podcast and your website and everything. And definitely check out Christina's podcast. I mean, it's really interesting. She has good advice, very entertaining. She might break out the ukulele every now and then.
Oh, I do break out the ukulele. And I also share my experiences of things that I've done that have challenged me and pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And I share those on the podcast, and I share, what I learned and what you can also learn from it too.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks again for being here. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thanks, Mario. Thanks for having me.